Oh no!
This first one. Yeah, first one. That's you know, we gonna be out there.
We gonna check on sound?
I don't know. Are we doing a sound check?
Yeah, we're gonna do a sound check.
Do a sound check, somebody. Make sure we can be heard.
Are you two?
Well, I don't see it.
Are you two people got onto me for
the sound.
the sound on
Yeah. As very well it should be.
It should be.
You know,
because we
was
should be
not
professionals and
That's
have
right.
this down.
We should know this by now. Hey, look, we got sound. Okay, here we go.
Well, mine ain't on there, man.
There we go.
I'm sorry, but we're on here. Yeah. Okay. All right, guys.
Our electronics.
Woohoo! Yeah, we're we've been listening to some. Yeah, I got the Bibles out.
Okay.
I got the Bibles out and everything.
Analog.
But, you know, the real. I got the versions, all the things out here.
Yes.
Okay.
There you go, Mama.
Okay, Mama's online. There we go. Way to go. Whew,
Mama checking
Lord,
us
Lord,
out.
Lord, Lord, Lord. Okay. I'm gonna tell y'all a little story. We're gonna go back to this little story time event. Yes,
time.
story time.
Story time.
Story time. Story time.
Y'all
Story
remember
time.
Vines? The little short video shorts before you had TikTok and when YouTube was just getting famous, you had Vines. Had a guy story time.
Yeah.
He'd go off on something. All right, I'm sorry.
Are you
I'm
good
done.
now?
I'm done.
Are you done now?
2 Timothy.
2 Timothy.
No, I said 1 Timothy.
1 Timothy.
1 Timothy. Number 1.
She already turned the Bible here
Number-
for me, guys.
And you still got it wrong. It's okay
He
though.
turned here for me.
It's there. And
It was there.
It's there. It's right there. Okay. A little story time. Because that song it's that you just played, Barry the Workman.
Barry the
We
Workman
just played
by-
Barry the Workman by Unspoken.
Unspoken, yeah.
Hey, I got it right.
The acoustic version.
Didn't we get to see them in concert?
Well, that's
when
where
it
I heard the
rained?
song.
Okay, yeah. Anywho,
Yeah.
that's been a few years. Anyway, Barry the Workman, but the work will go on. You know, my daddy used to say, "I'm just a water pipe," or he'd say, "I'm just a rat trapper." You know, he never used being a pastor as a position of braggart or anything to be envious of, you know, because truth be told, he was the fixer of the plumbing and the washer of the outside and the lawn maintenance man, and you know, lots of areas to what needed to be doing. If it needed to happen, that was pastor's role, make it happen. Or, you know,
Toilets need fixing.
when nobody was there, it was pastor's role. It's what happened. But anyway, let's go back to a little bit of a story time event. 2020.
How's this flunky?
2020. Here we go. We're sitting around planning an ordination. Somebody's about to get their piece of paper. So exciting. Such a great moment. And, you know, I looking at this piece of paper and whatnot. Now, as Mama has said many, many times, I've been actively involved in the role of ministry since I was 15 years old. I will be 37 this year. Y'all can do the math. Most of my life, I have been serving in some capacity or another. So I'm in there and again serving because I'm filling out certificates. Right? Because somebody's got to get their pretty piece of paper. And, you know, me and Daddy are talking, and I said, maybe one of these days I'll get one of them. And he looked at me, and Matt looked at him, and they're all sitting there scratching their heads. And he goes, "You've never been ordained?" I said, "No." And he said, but you've been acting as associate pastor. You've been leading the children's department. I said, yeah, I just figured one day you'd get around to it. I mean, whatever. He's got a round to it right there. A little piece of leather. It's a round to it. Just round
to
and it says to it. It's a round to it.
It's around to it.
Yeah, that's what it is. I
When
figured.
I get around to it,
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Yeah, I just figured
No
you'd get
excuses
around
anymore.
to it. And then I got my piece of paper. Did my piece of paper give me superpowers? No.
Nothing changed.
Nothing changed. I just now have a little piece of paper that's shoved on a shelf somewhere. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But what does matter is the work and the desiring to do the work. So we're gonna back it up, and we're gonna talk about some things in 1 Timothy chapter 3, because Paul was writing to a young minister, a young man who had begun doing the work. Now, this is the same young man that he told to go back to your mama because he was being a little baby man. Okay? Yeah. 1 Timothy chapter 3. Now, it's going to say bishop, but let me tell you something. It's all the same word. Minister, servant, shepherd. You see bishop, you see elder, it's all the same word. So, let's read this, and I'm gonna put in the disclaimer that in the original Greek text it says if anyone. It doesn't say any man, but there you go. Do with that what you will. So we're gonna be in the Amplified. Why not? Let's see. This is a faithful and trustworthy saying, and we'll probably move over to Titus as well. Saying, if any man eagerly seeks the office of overseer, bishop, superintendent, he desires an excellent task. The desire of the work is not wrong. Lord, if he didn't put the desire in, would anybody do it? Because it's a life on call. You know, you can probably ask anybody in any type of medical profession or any job where they have to be on call for any length of time. Mm-hmm. Do they enjoy being on call? I know Mama didn't always enjoy being tied to her beeper or tied to her cell phone. There were some days where she would get about 5 seconds in the house and have to roll right back out because the calls kept coming in. And when you're on call, you don't have an option to say, I'm tired. You don't have the option to say, can somebody else do it? The only option you have is, yes, okay, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. You know, this handsome fella thought he was going to be a nurse. And we met the weekend before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I was already writing to colleges, getting information.
And Mama had a very special call from Hades, if you will.
It was supposed to be Pat Rigby's fault.
Oh, she just called her out on the internet. You sold Pat out on the internet. I'm sorry, Pat. I'm sorry. I didn't say that. She did. Anyway. Yeah, so she took that call, and it was one of those revolving door calls. In the house, out the house, in the house, out the house. And he was there long enough to say, I don't want that.
I was just getting out of the military.
I don't want that.
You know,
I don't want
having
that.
to wake up at all times of the night and to go and do this, or, you know, stay on watch from 2 to 6 or whatever else. You know,
And he just realized, I don't want that.
I'm just leaving that. I don't want to get back into that. You know?
Yeah.
Mama looking at me.
Yep. But those who desire the office, those who desire the position, those who desire the work, see, you got to make sure that it's the work that you desire and not the title.
Yeah.
Because if it's the title, you're going to be sadly disappointed. Okay? I'm here to tell you, it's not glamorous. He desires an excellent task. Now, an overseer must be blameless and beyond reproach. You have to be above any character flaws as far as your integrity goes. I'm not talking about if, you know, little things that we consider character flaws. You know, the small things that's like, well, you know, they could brush their hair a little bit better this way.
They're a mouth breather.
Yeah, okay, those things. I'm talking about the things that tarnish one's character. I'm not talking about if, you know, you're proficient in iron or not, okay? These things can be worked out. That don't disqualify you. But Paul is going to tell us some things that do disqualify people from the work. Okay, because there's a process to it. God had a process to things. Jesus prepared 30 years for three years of ministry. He learned submission to his parents. Go figure that one, which that probably means he got a tail whipping for disappearing for 3 days. I mean, what would you do with your kid who disappeared for 3 days? Yeah, that's a fun question. All right, so the overseer must be blameless and beyond reproach, the husband of one wife. You can't have a spouse and a girlfriend, or a spouse and a boyfriend. It don't work that way. You can't be looking for people on the side. There's times when you're going to be ministering to people of the opposite sex, and you better be above reproach with it. Mm-hmm. You better have your witness. You know, if I'm ministering to somebody, usually of the opposite sex, if it's on the phone, he's right there. He's close by.
Close by.
He's
right
close
there.
by. Hey, knock on the door, come in here, or I'll go sit by him while he works and minister. If it's text messages, here's the phone. Read the conversation. Or better yet, Matt, how should I reply to this? What do you think would be right above reproach?
Yeah.
I don't just go over and go Captain Secretive.
It's called accountability.
It's accountability.
Right.
It's accountability.
And you need that.
You do.
Yeah.
You need that.
Yeah.
We don't have that.
You need that with each other. You
That's
need
right.
that. You need accountability in ministry. It keeps you honest.
Yeah.
You know, people in churches, they have accountability. It's just it avoids a lot of bad.
Yeah. Moving.
And if you have a problem with accountability, there's a problem.
That's a disqualifier.
There
y'all.
is a problem.
Yeah.
If you have a problem with accountability.
Right.
Yep. That's it. All right. Moving right along. Self-controlled. Self-controlled. Or self-disciplined. Take your pick. Let's see. Sensible. Sensible. Can't be outlandish. You got to be able to understand what's in front of you with the care given to you in the role that you hold. You got to be respectable. You got to be respectable, which means you have to be considerate. You can't just fly off and say something with no regards to how other people are going to receive that. You can't be the one that says, I don't like that. When somebody's giving you of their time, their money, their finances, they may be bringing their absolute best to you as a minister. You can't be so rude and unthinking that, oh my goodness, I don't like that, so I'm going to let them know. No, you need to be grateful. Thank you. That was very nice of you to think of me. You've got to be sensible. You've got to be respectable. You've got to be hospitable. Always willing to open the door. Always willing to say, well, come on in. Would you like a cup of coffee? Do we need to talk about this? When the phone rings, you have to be the one that answers it. You need to have your ringer up. Do with that what you will.
Where's that rock at?
Well, you throw a rock in the back of the dogs, and one gets hit, it's going by.
Yep.
Yep. Okay. They have to be able to teach. Able to teach. And Jesus did this through parables. Jesus did this through all kinds of things. He spoke in a language that people would understand. You have to be able to teach, and I think a willingness comes with that.
Can we stop there for a second?
Yes, please, go for it.
You know, because that's an area that you've got to understand as far as teaching goes. It's not just reading. Y'all ever have a boring teacher?
My what was he? Geometry. He spoke with the monotone boys, and me and Daddy both fell asleep during
Did it affect you in any way? You know, I remember two teachers specifically. Both of I loved history class. Okay, I remember Miss Shivers.
Too late.
I remember Miss Shivers. Oh man, she was a little lady. I mean, she was tiny. And I remember sitting in her class, and she had an old school record player, and she starts class, and all of a sudden out of nowhere, y'all ever seen Terminator movie? the theme song for Terminator starts coming on the record player.
That's great.
And she starts teaching us about the Azurians.
Yeah.
And I'm just sitting there, I'm enthralled because, and when I say she would sit there and she had like long hair, she'd sit there and pull it up and look crazy, but
She made
I still remember her, I remember her teaching us about finding that skeleton that was supposed to be the missing link, and them playing Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, and she's playing that in her classroom.
Wow.
But I remember those lessons. Now, the other one was Mr. Bumgardner. Mr. Bumgardner was another great teacher. He would sit there and spend time on a subject, but he just didn't go out of the textbook. He would sit there and go through the subject with you and explore the rabbit trails like we do in here.
Yeah.
And you could get him off in left field sometimes, and he'd have to try and, but he loved going off in left field, so he was, but we learned things in those classrooms.
Well,
Their influence, helped shape who I am today. Your daddy,
he was a teacher.
he was a teacher.
He was a teacher. If you went with him, you was gonna learn something, and it was usually more than what you were currently doing.
And
there was a deeper message.
And yeah, exactly. You had to,
Remember the rat traps.
Yeah, you had to remember the rat traps.
There you go. There was always more to it.
When you teach, it's got to change
That's right.
something.
But,
it can't just be. I mean, you can do a 3-point sermon.
Well, yes, but
all day long.
yeah, but also being able to teach is understanding your audience. Do I teach at the same level in here than I did with the kids in children's church?
No.
No. Parables become different. The life lessons become different. Why? Because y'all probably aren't going to relate to superheroes and Disney princesses quite as much as if I throw out the stuff in your day-to-day. Hey?
Some of
You know
some
what?
of us.
You learn to preach
Some
the
of us,
gospel
Andy.
through Disney whenever you're in children's church.
Basically.
Why? Because they know these things. Because these things matter to them. Know your
Are
audience.
you volunteering?
You want to go? You want to talk about Batman for a while? I don't
can
mind.
go
Which
back
one's
every-
your favorite?
We can talk about superheroes.
Hey, but here's the deal. You've got to be aware. And he doesn't just say, well, I'm able to teach the 35-year-olds. No. If you're going to be an overseer, it doesn't matter what age your flock is, you have to oversee them.
Did y'all's churches ever do on a Sunday where the pastor would sit down with the kids before he preached his message, and he would do? Did your pastor ever do like a little mini sermon for the kids? Our pastor, Brother Gerald Harris. Oh man, he would sit down. He would get all the kids in the church, and we ain't talking about a little church here. All the kids, and he'd invite all the kids in the church to come up to the front. He would sit down on the steps, and all the kids would sit down around him, and he would preach a message to us kids right there. Real simple message to us kids. And it would be something that we could grab a hold of, and then when he would tell us to go back to our seats, and our parents, and and then we would go sit down, and he would preach the sermon where he yelled a lot. Yeah, that's what I.
I remember one of my many treks in children's church. We didn't change the context, we just changed the presentation. We didn't change the content, just the presentation, okay? So, do you remember the point in Super Kid Academy where we teach communion, the Lord's Supper? Yeah, we did that with the kids. I'm talking, I've had them from first grade on up, teaching them. And you think about it and you go, well, how can we show them the suffering that Christ went through? Because that's what you do when you teach the Lord's table. You let them know what it represents. Well, I didn't pull out a Passion of the Christ clip in children's church. You don't do that. That's a bad idea.
Crying kids is never a good thing.
Oh, I still had crying kids. Don't worry. I still had crying kids. But you know what we did? We pulled up the scene from The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe with the stone table where Aslan goes willingly. And the moment that dagger dropped, the whole class understood what Jesus did and what they were taking part of when they took part of communion. And we had communion. We taught, but we were able to shift it to what the audience could understand. Why do you think Jesus talked about vineyards and servants, or vineyards and sons? Because that's something the people of the day could understand. You know what? We might not relate to that as much now. We might have to use a different example to teach the same thing. But an overseer has to be able to teach. Am I boring y'all? I apologize if I am. Not addicted to wine. And say not addicted to any substance. Okay? Can't be ruled by something else. Can't be ruled by something else. Only thing that rules you is Christ. And you lay your life down forfeit when you desire to be an overseer or a minister. Your life no longer counts. You don't have, you ain't got no excuse.
Amen.
Not a bully, because he ain't wanting us to bully and lord it over. We learned that in her reading. What was it about the church being a servant? In Matthew. That was in Matthew. Remember, we're not like the Gentiles. We ain't pushing that around.
That was Sunday's message.
Yeah, Sunday. We're not being tyrannical in leadership, but we're the servant. We're the servant. You know? If you need something, you should be able to call on me, and I should be the first one willing to drop what I'm doing and be there for what you need.
That's right.
Or help you find somebody that can if I don't possess those skills. There's many ways to help and lay your life down, but you have to be the one willing to do it, and it's not just an explanation of all things spiritual. Sometimes there's physical labor involved. Sometimes it might be, you know what, taking them some food. Sometimes it might be, dog sitting, kid sitting, whatever else. You do what's needed. What that person needs. You help out with the plumbing or the electrical. You help fix a fence. You help. You help. You're a servant. Your life is forfeit. What matters to the flock? You know? When Simba the cat wants food, he don't wait. Did you know that? He don't wait. He's at the door, and you crack that door open, and this large Garfield-shaped monstrosity pushes through. And he comes in, and he looks at his plate, and he looks at me, and he looks at his plate, and he looks at me. And I start walking toward the back of the house where he knows his food is kept, and he starts making sure. He'll take a few steps and look back, make sure I'm right behind him. Take a few steps, look back, make sure and he watches me shovel the scoop, and he does the same thing all the way back to his plate, and then he's looking at me, looking at the scoop, looking at the plate, till I put it down. He don't wait. He ain't nice, he ain't polite, he needs to eat and he expects food. Welcome to being the servant. We say these are our pets, but really they're our bosses. Let's just be real. Leia's got mama trained. Hey, and they don't wait. They don't wait. Why do you think he calls you a shepherd over a flock?
Peasant.
Exactly, peasant. He don't even say thank you. He sticks his round rear end up in the air, and then he lays his front end down and just lays in the plate and starts eating. That's what he does. Every once in a while, he's nice enough to let me pet him. But beyond that, he wants his food.
You go back to Jesus and the Lord's Supper. And what's the thing that Jesus does? He takes off his raiment and he puts on the raiment of a servant. The clothing of a servant. A towel.
He puts on a towel.
Puts on a towel.
So he wiped off their feet on the very clothes he was wearing.
You want to talk about
lowest position.
Lowest position. And why do you think Peter's in there? No, Lord, not me. Not my feet, Lord.
Because the position was beneath him.
Yeah.
Jesus was doing was beneath Jesus. It was beneath him. But he didn't come to be ministered to. He didn't come to be served. He came to serve.
Now listen, Jesus knew where he was going, guys.
Yeah.
Do y'all understand that? Jesus knew where he was headed to. And he didn't say, you know what, man, I'm about to go down the cross, man. I want to go eat at the Longhorns and get the big T-bone steak and live in comfort for the last few minutes I got.
No.
No.
He ministered.
He ministered. He prepared.
served.
He prepared his disciples that were going to be scared because their lives were on the line. How did they not know that they were going to be the next to be crucified? You know, preparing Peter,
And he served.
letting them know, hey, look, when you're converted, go and strengthen your brethren. But he served them.
He served them.
Even Judas.
Even Judas.
Judas.
That's it. The one that would hurt him the most. He didn't care. You think he didn't know? You think he didn't recognize Satan in Judas? He knew. He knew exactly. He knew exactly. You know, there was a difference though. He rebuked the devil in Peter. Not Judas. See, Judas, it was in his heart to do. Peter made a misstep. Judas had a heart condition. That's a whole nother issue. But anyway, he's not a bully. Don't pick on people. Not a bully. Where am I at? Gotta find where I'm at. Not quick-tempered. You can't be a hothead. Oh look, and hot-headed, but gentle.
Well, not just quick-tempered. You've got to have control over your
Yes.
vessel.
Yes,
You have to have control over your spirit.
that's right.
That y'all have heard me say this time and again. A man,
That's right.
a person, a lady, anybody a child that does not have control over their spirit is like a city broken down and without walls.
That's right.
You can't be in a position like this and not have control over yourself and what you say.
Yes.
And the fact is that the things that we say,
Yes.
regardless of what right we may have to say them, man, it has an effect that you can't. Once the word's out there, you can't. Talk is cheap. You can't buy it back.
You can't reel them back in.
Talk is cheap, but you can't buy it back once it's out there.
That's it.
You know,
it.
and that's. I'm gonna tell you something. I get diarrhea of the mouth sometimes,
You don't say.
and if I say too much, sometimes mess comes out.
There you go.
And there's been more than one time where I've had to go back and humble myself and apologize. Please forgive me. I've handled this wrong. I
Well.
said the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And even on top of that, you know, I mean, this is
Yes.
something that Mindy and I talk about. My communication skills a lot of times are not the greatest in the world. I will say something the wrong way that fast and not realize that what I said hurt the other person. And Mindy would come back to me and say, Matt, I know what you meant,
But they don't.
but they don't.
You need to go fix it.
Now, I can say I can do one or two things with that. I can say, you know what? Well, that's just me. That's who I am. I can say, you know what? You're right,
Yeah. That's it.
and I can pray. Number one, and ask God to help me
Yeah.
to control my tongue and to speak right things. And I can learn.
Yeah.
I can look at the example of others
That's
that
right.
are around me and learn how to say
That's right.
the right thing.
That's right.
The thing that's going to heal and not hurt.
That's it. That's it. But gentle. Power under control. You know, we use phrases in the church world that, you know, you need to shear sheep, not skin them. See, that temper, that flying off, that miscommunication, you can skin somebody. And once you do it, they're going to bleed out. Game's over. Game's over. You can't go around and just wound people. That's not how you do that. You've got to rule your strong spirit. Yes, it's strong, it's powerful, but you're gentle, like the equine term. That horse is bigger than its rider. That horse can swat its rider like a gnat, but they're gentle. Their power under control. We've got to remain strong, but be controlled in it. Free, okay, consider it. Free from the love of money, not greedy for wealth and its inherent power, or financially ethical. Let me tell you something. If you're looking for riches, this ain't it. Financially, because you're going to be pouring out to people. Pouring out to people. Pouring out to people. Pouring out to people. There's going to be so many times when you're going to have to choose what you're going to do. What you going to do. And it's not for, this is not a, what great is the minister speech. This is a consider the job description speech, because this is just what it is. This is just what it is. Jesus, he poured it all out. He poured it all out. When anybody came to Jesus, what did he do when they came to him? Did he immediately change whatever it was he was doing and go to help with whatever problem was there? I haven't found one occurrence where he didn't yet. He was going to go to the home of the centurion, and he's like, nope. I understand authority. Just speak it, and it's done. Just say the word, and it's done.
The only one I know of is with Lazarus, where he stayed 2 more days.
He stayed 2 more days. Yeah.
He did it to prove a point.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. 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 Let's turn the page.
Okay. What verse?
I'm on
Verse 4?
Yeah, I'm on 4. It gets weird when you got a parallel, because you're which side of the page am I on? It's like I should be here longer. He must manage his own household well, keeping his children under control with all dignity, keeping them respectable and well behaved. Your family is your first mission field. If you got children in the home, you are only able to serve a greater flock to the degree that you can serve the smaller flock.
Now, a lot of people will say that you're supposed to put I remember when you and I first got married.
Yeah.
We were youth ministers in a church. We were newlyweds. And I remember our pastor at the time, he came to us and he was expecting us to spend every waking moment with the kids
And the teenagers.
and the teenagers in our church. Well, we did spend a lot of time with them. They came to our house and did things, but we did not
On the daily.
on the daily.
On the daily.
But we did not,
There were some times when we needed to
connect. And we had,
as a
we're
household.
newlyweds.
As a household.
We have to have that time. You have to have that time with each other. I don't care if you're newlyweds or you're 30 and 40 year
That's right.
weds. You need time with your spouse.
That's right. You need to pour. We focused on the spouse, and that is important.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's part of that mission field that we have.
But how
to each
are you
other.
able to teach? Because here's the deal. If Katie is not taught, how are y'all supposed to sit and listen to me? If Katie is not taught the things of God. If I don't care enough to be a leader to her first, how can I possibly lead another person? I can't. So those children are that barometer. You can disqualify yourself from ministry if you cannot minister to your children. Now I'm talking to children in the home. When they grow and they gone, it's out of your control. But when they're in your house, They're the first ministry field. And that's just,
And it takes effort.
yeah, it does. It takes effort.
It takes presence of mind. You've got to think about what is going on around.
That's
you
right.
cannot just unplug
No.
and plug yourself into a video game or TV
That's right.
or computer or whatever else there is to distract you. Because
My parents modeled a lifestyle of ministry in front of me. We got up, we read the Bible, we talked about the things that were going on. They involved me in that. They would tell me, no, you can't do that. Why? Because somebody might interpret it this way, and that's not appropriate for one in ministry. Wow. You know, most teenagers would say that's fun sucking. You know, there were people that would say, you're raising a brat. There's people who would say, you can't raise your kids that way.
let me tell you something. You can absolutely
Yeah.
raise your kids that way.
And you know, I was.
It's not wrong.
I wasn't always the golden child. There was moments when they'd say, hey, you better control yourself. Hey, you better straighten up. And there was the loss of the stuff, and there was a belt, and there was, let me tell you something, there was course correction in whatever degree it needed to happen because more was on the line. That's just
Yeah.
part of the ministry. You have to minister to your immediate family, your children, your household. Let's put it that way, household. That's your first congregation in ministry.
After we got married, you and I
Yeah.
we're living with your dad and your mom, and we would get to fighting and arguing with each other. And my father-in-law had a rule in his house: you don't bring strife in.
You loved a good fight.
Oh man! And me and Mindy, I could argue with Mindy till the cows come home because she's an only child,
And he's the baby
and
of
I'm
four.
a baby of 4, and I'm right. So.
Only when I say so.
And we could get into
could.
some arguments.
And there
we
was
could get some
strife.
strife in. And her daddy.
We were in
Now,
his
I'm gonna
household.
tell you something. We had agreed to be a part of his household. That
That's
was
right.
an agreement. We came in together,
He
me
ruled
and
his
him and
household.
her.
He
And you.
ruled his household, didn't he?
and he ruled his household. Now he did not come. He never busted into our room ever unless we were fighting with one another. And he would say, "You're not going to fight in my house."
That's it.
And then he would top it off. He wouldn't
We
just leave
need
it
to
there.
pray.
And he would say, "We need to pray."
That's right.
And he would grab my hand, and he would grab your hand, and he would tell us to grab each other's hands.
Yep, and we would.
And he would sit there and say,
And you-
"Now let's pray." And he would be praying, and Minnie would be praying, and I'd be over there madder than a wet
Pouting.
setting hen pouting. I'm ready to,
Pouting.
I got a vein coming up on my forehead, ready to pop. And I'm pretty sure he did too, because I would say the wrong thing.
He'd fix that vein for you.
And I'd be sitting there mad as all get out, and he'd say, "Matt, you ain't praying." And say, "I'm praying silent," or "I don't feel like praying." Y'all, that happened.
It happened.
I had to repent. I had to admit, you know what? Hey, I'm not right. I am not right. And the Bible does say, excuse me, the Bible does say that where strife is,
All manner of evil.
is.
And do you don't think that would conflict with ministry?
Now, my father-in-law loved me enough to make sure that I didn't allow evil in my house.
That's it.
You know, that's something that me and Mindy still have to recognize. Okay, hey, look,
well,
this is
we can't do
accelerating
this.
beyond just a disagreement.
We ain't gonna do this.
We're not going to fight with each
We're
other.
not gonna do this.
And you know what? There may be times where we have to. You go in there, and I'll go over here.
Take a breath.
And we'll come back to this in a little bit.
Yeah, because we're not gonna let strife in. We're not. You know what?
Let's pray. Okay.
We're
We
gonna
need to pray
disagree because
together.
we're two people.
I'm
It happens.
gonna. Lord Jesus, this woman.
I like this one. This one goes, Andy.
Yep.
But you know what? It's better
It's better.
than living in strife.
Yes, it
and
is.
contention.
Absolutely.
Living a life of strife and contention.
Yep.
You know what? You know what he taught me?
There you go.
You know what he taught me, men? He said, "Men, I'm talking to you. Dakota, listen, this is good advice. You're going to need this one day. The man is always the giver.
Yep.
Always. You're not the taker. You're always the giver. That's a great lesson I learned. Men, you're always the giver. Now, does that mean Mindy don't ever do nothing? No, she does.
No.
But he taught me the principle of sowing and reaping. That's more than just finances and money. You sow good things into your family, you'll reap good things.
That's right.
You sow negative things in your family, you'll reap negative things.
Such as a divorce.
Exactly.
You'll reap a divorce.
Yep.
You'll reap kids that
Or murder,
that hate you.
or-
You'll reap
Murder.
murder. You'll reap all kinds of mess.
stuff. That's right.
But if you sow good things, you'll
That's
reap.
right. Children are an inheritance of the Lord. Children are an inheritance of the Lord. That means they're gifted to you by
The
God.
Bible tells me that I'm Katie's. Glory? Is that what it
That's
says?
right, yeah.
Proverbs. Yeah. It says
Glory
I'm
of
Katie's.
children is their father.
Is their father. Boy, that's a hefty thing to live up to. I better step it up a notch.
But
Right?
don't exasperate her.
Don't you look at me like that, girl. I'll get
Don't exasperate the child. That's also in the scripture.
Yeah.
Don't exasperate her
You know?
by nitpicking. By nitpicking, you steer her. You teach her. Teach her what to do right. You hold her accountable. You hold her accountable.
It's the first ministry.
It's the first ministry, because here you go in verse 5, for if a man does not know how to manage his own household, how will he take care of the church of God? If you can't think enough of your own children, your own household,
And let's
to push
extend
them into
Not your own children.
Yeah.
But if you're married,
and your wife,
children.
to build them up,
And your wife's
to
children.
see about their spiritual needs, to care enough to be compelled to do everything in your power to meet those needs, to send them into eternity on the right side of it.
And it's more than just work.
It's
more than just a 9 to 5, y'all. It's more than just.
I'm talking about the spiritual
just
end
paying
of it.
the money out to
The
to
spiritual
provide.
end of it, because life, this little thing that we go around for about 70 or 80 years, that's temporary. I'm talking about setting them up for eternity. If you're not willing to go the distance to make sure that your children are going to be in the Lamb's Book of Life, how are you going to care for a stranger and care enough to do whatever it takes for them?
The first thing that comes to a man's mind when you start talking about stuff like this is money, working a job.
That's got very
That is-
little to do
that is
with it.
the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
The tip of the iceberg.
That's right.
The absolute. You know what? Some of the times where Katie and I get to really sit there is riding in the car to go
Play disc golf.
or taking
right.
her to Five Below. Okay,
That's right.
used to be the dollar store when I was a kid. They get Five Below.
Whatever. and you know, it's because Katie wants to look at only the things you care about.
No, you know what?
Right.
Let me tell you something. And she will unabashedly go do the things that she wants to do.
Come on, Daddy, I want to
Come
look
on.
at nail polish.
Yes, ma'am. Can I go do that?
Can I go do
Can
that?
I go
I need
do
makeup
that?
brushes.
There may be times where I get a little selfish and say, Katie, let me go do this real quick, and then we'll go do what you want to do.
You know how many times my daddy went clothes shopping with me? I mean, seriously, me and Daddy could go to the mall, and Buddy, he'd be right there. He's like, that looks like you. And Buddy, 9 times out of 10, he knew me so well that it would be me. Straight up.
I got you, girl. Let's go to the Gap.
Do you think he liked clothes shopping? He'd rather be running a coon. He'd rather be fishing. And yes, he got me on those adventures too. Let me tell you, I had a CD. You remember burning CDs? Our kids know nothing of that now, but we burned them CDs. I had a burnt CD that had Toby Mac, Grits, Gospel Gangsters, and you can guess what kind of music this was.
T-Bone.
Okay, this was exactly what my bluegrass loving father enjoyed. Buddy, I get in the truck with him. Can I play it? Yeah. Crank it up. Did you know he learned some of the words to some of them songs? And even though he didn't care for it, he'd be singing along. Ride, ride, wanna ride on the J train. It's the J train, wanna ride on the J train. Okay? But you know what? Because because he did those things, because he invested in me, I'm not where I could be, which could have been wrong. Because a lot of people I look at that are my age, you see them, and you think, man, that's sad. That's sad. Most of the girls I knew did not have a relationship with their fathers. Oh, it was just daddy. You know, he birthday presents, Christmas presents, aggravated with daddy. It's
Two
daddy.
words
It's
to
just
them
daddy.
after work.
Yeah, no.
You're making me homesick for the relationship I had with my daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. You never outgrow that.
No.
You never outgrow that.
You know, sometimes the best thing to do, Andy, is call them up and just tell them that you love them.
That's it.
And I love you. I
That's
just wanted
it.
to call and tell you I love you.
That's it.
But those days,
Those days.
Those
those days are gone. But those days,
Yeah.
Yeah.
they were great.
You know, some of the, my dad and I, my dad worked. He worked traveling salesman.
Yep.
Sold office furniture all over Southeast United States, and we got to go on a couple of sales trips together. Those were great.
Yeah.
But now as an adult, getting to hear from my dad, hey, I just want to tell you I love you, son. I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
I love hearing that. That's it don't mean look, it ain't like going to fishing at Uncle Gilbert and Aunt Margaret's house, but man, it's just as good.
That's right.
It
That's
means
right.
just as much.
That's right. This is a phrase that we understand monetarily: no investment, no return.
Right.
No investment, no return.
Yeah.
A minister
It's invested.
is invested in the work,
Yeah.
not for the return.
And it's got to be, and
Because you're just invested. Now, will there be a return? Yes, there will. There should be if you're effective at your job.
Yeah.
You pray for the Lord. You get on your knees. You go the distance.
And it's not, listen, and it's not just the church.
No.
And it's not just the family.
No.
It's invested.
Invested.
It's, man,
Whatever may come, here we are.
I don't have a life. I'm a prisoner, as Pops used to tell me, I'm a prisoner of velvet chains. I can break free anytime I want to.
Yeah.
I am free to do that.
That's it. That's
But
it.
not if like Catherine Kuhlman said,
I'm not so special to God.
Yeah.
Any one of y'all can do what,
but the price is high.
but it ain't cheap. That's what
It
she
ain't
told
cheap.
them. It's not cheap, people.
It's going to cost you everything.
That's it.
It will cost you everything. I mean, you got to understand that. It will cost you everything.
Everything. There is no me time.
And I'm going to tell you something. The things that it's going to cost you ain't the things you're thinking of.
No.
It's going to be the one thing that you are holding on to
Yeah.
that you do not want to give up.
That's gonna be
And that's going to be the price.
that's gonna be the price.
Are you willing to pay it?
And not grudgingly. Not grudgingly.
Okay, God, you want me to walk this?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Lord. I'll be willing. Not just willing. I'll be obedient. Not just obedient, but I'll be willing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Exactly.
Or you know what?
Yeah.
No, I don't want to do this. I'm done. Let me step back. That's not a good place to be.
No, it's not a good place to be.
That's why when you go into ministry, you have to be careful.
That's what we're about to learn. That's what we're about to hit on. Here we go, verse 6. And he must not be a new convert. Again, 30 years of living for 3 years of ministry. How many years did we go to church? Did we sit under people?
Do we submit to
Did we
somebody
submit
else?
to someone else's authority before we started out in ministry? Okay? You can't be a new convert. You can't be a baby Christian. And let me tell you something. New convert, baby Christian, I've seen 40-year-old baby Christians who's been in church for 20, 30 years and they're still sucking a bottle. They won't care. They're the ones who want the title. They want the prestige without doing the work. They look for the shortcuts to the work. There is no shortcut. There is no shortcut. If you're not willing to live in the pasture, you might want to move on. Because we're called to live in the pasture with the sheep. That's where we're called. In the elements, in the cold, in the rain, in the heat, in the whatever may come. You are the gift to the church. You are the slave of the church. This is what the work is.
Do you know the average lifespan of a pastor? I mean, I'm not talking about like their entire life. I'm talking about the lifespan of somebody being a pastor
Before they hit burnout?
before they hit burnout. What is it, like?
Five, something like five. 5, 6.
But
Then you hit
a
burnout.
lot of them don't make it that long now.
Yeah.
I think the last one I heard was 3.
What really?
And I'm not
Yeah.
I'm not bashing
No.
those people for that, guys, because let me tell you something, the cost is high.
Yeah, it is.
Hard, it is hard to explain to somebody
Yeah.
the cost.
Yeah.
You experience it though.
You know,
But surely heaven's worth it all.
We don't leave here and clock out. We don't leave here and clock out because
And you could get home tonight and need something from me. You call me, and what am I going to do? Tell you no? I may say, do you need it right now? No, I need it right now, Matt. Okay, hey,
on the way,
I'm on my way.
on the way. But not even that. Not
I know
even.
if you call me, you gonna, it's going to be needed.
Even when we don't get a phone call, get a phone call, there's the praying with the things that's going on in each of your individual lives. There's the things that we can see down the road that you ain't got a clue to. And how are we able to teach them? How are we able, because we see the coyotes with your corgi facing the fence. How are we able? How are we gonna be able to reach them without a fence? How are we gonna be able to reach them before the coyote does?
How can I tell you that I know what's about to happen? Without trying to be ugly to you because
I see you headed for a train wreck. Because
now I've been doing this since we've been married.
Yeah.
I was here. I've seen. It's kind of interesting because the way things happen with people, it happens to different ones.
Yeah, and you see it, and you see these things.
Man, that one's heading the same place. This is not. What can we do? How can we?
And yes, we pray, but you're constantly assessing. God, give me the answer. God, let me find a scripture. Lord, what do I say? How do I minister? How can we divert this? Do you think you can just, turn that off at the end of a service? I mean, really, do you think you can? Think about any time your family's been going through any type of crisis. Can you just cut that off? That's the life of the slave of the church. That's the life of a minister. That's what God intends, though. That's why he says it's their gift. Hey, you know what? This ain't pumping anybody up, but this is to let people understand, if you desire the work, understand what the work is. Because when you love people, that's what you do. Okay? I wouldn't change nothing. Matt asked me the other day, he said, so what are you gonna do next? I'm always somebody doing something. I get all kinds of harebrained schemes, from making soap to milking goats to making cheese to sewing dresses instead of cleaning the house to doing all kinds of fun stuff, and now I'm making a quilt. But it's like, what are you gonna do next? What do you want to do? I said, I'm doing it. I'm doing it. I can't think of doing anything other than being a pastor, than being a minister, than walking in the ministry wherever it takes me, because it's taken me some interesting locations recently. But that's what is in my heart and my spirit to do. Does it mean that I get tired? Does it mean that it's emotionally draining and taxing? And at times, yes.
Most of the time, yes.
Most of the time, yes. Most of the time. But it's what I'm called to do, and it's what I'm going to do, and I ain't doing it grudgingly. But understand, does this weigh out to a pretty piece of paper? Got a piece of of paper, y'all. It's so pretty. It's got gold lettering on it. Y'all can go, I think it's on like the 3rd or 4th shelf somewhere down there on my book. I don't even know what shelf it's on. It's right there by Matt's pretty green one that's in French. Yeah, he's all international.
Yeah. International evangelist.
Man of mystery.
Man of mystery evangelist. Yeah. I'm the du fromage. Yeah.
What have we done? We ain't done nothing with them. They just, they sit there. They sit there.
But the ministry comes when somebody's hurting
Yeah, when someone's hurting.
and they need somebody to talk to. You know
When
what?
you drive 5 hours one way.
Drive 5 hours one way to cast the devil out of somebody because they need it.
Yeah.
You know. I mean.
You go to a whole other state to pick them up and bring them home.
Oh Lord. Yeah.
When
To
you
live
go,
with you.
when you go pull
Somebody
them
you have never laid eyes on.
when you
before.
pull them out the dumpster,
Yeah, and you bring them home
and you bring them home.
so they don't freeze.
Yeah. When you get to the point where, you know, what's the song? Take my houses, take my lands.
Yeah.
Take my dreams and my
My-
plans.
and my
Take my
plans.
dreams and my plans. You know, we dream about, there's people that dream about being a minister. You know, and they get this idea in their head of the guy on TV. Everybody wants to be
They see the-
a Jesse Duplantis or a
Billy Graham.
Billy Graham.
They see
or
the platform.
They see the platform. You know, like Catherine Kuhlman said, you idiot, I'm not special. God will do this for anybody. How many people, y'all, are out there laying hands on the sick and they're recovering like Catherine Kuhlman and they don't have a name?
If you're waiting to be on a stage to do it, you're just wanting a piece of paper. You're not wanting the work. You're not wanting the work. Let me tell you something. I am an only child. I am an only child. Do you know how well only children like other children? Nope. 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 Over 20 years in children's church. I've just came out to the light of day. Over 20 years in children's church. It was not comfortable. It was not always fun. We had better snacks. Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Once we did get better snacks.
Mindy does children's church.
They're snacks. You know why? Because when you keep
They
the
just goldfish
hands,
and Kool-Aid.
when you keep the hands busy, and they're stuffing their face, they don't get the wild hair to interrupt as bad. Ah, yeah. Hey, you know what? You learn these things. It's a tool. It's a tool. Why do you think Jesus gave them the loaves and the fishes? Sit down, be quiet, and let me break it down for you. It's just a minute. Tummy grumbling. It happens. Suffered little children to come to me. It was the work that needed doing. When we started this ministry, there was one kid. One kid. One kid. And you know what? Every night. Come on. Come on. One kid. Did it for one. And then we had a class. It was the work that needed doing. I would have much rather had been poured into. But that one needed pouring into. And it wasn't fancy. And it wasn't recognition. And there wasn't big pomp and circumstance, but the one needed it. And so I poured into the one. This is the work. This is the work, to see what needs doing and being willing to pick it up and go. Whatever it may be. If it's out of your comfort zone, it don't, and most of the time it is. Most of the time it
Church with
is.
me, Andy.
Most of the time it is.
Said you come to children's church with me one day, Andy.
And serve your tour of duty. Hey, you know what? Everybody
Me and
needs.
Jimmy done it for 3.5 years.
That's right. And
We did.
Yeah. It's a great training ground.
And he got his lay minister's license after what? 16 years
Yeah.
of,
Only to turn it back in.
and then he turned it
Only
back
to
in.
give it back. Because God moved him somewhere else.
That's right.
But was it about the paper?
Yeah.
It was about the work. He had already been proven faithful in doing the work. When the pastor needed somebody to carry his cases, who did he call? You think that was fun? I'm your roadie. I'm your roadie.
That's what he did. Not for me.
But the pastor, unbeknownst to us, was having problems in his body physically.
Had cancer.
Had cancer.
Had cancer.
He couldn't tote those heavy cases. But you know what? I'll be there, brother. I'll be there. And we'd go to Timbuktu. Mama would come in from work, have enough time to scarf a ham sandwich, and out the road we'd go. I'd be having a literature book or an English book or a history book, who knows, in the van. But we'd go.
Get home 2 in the morning.
Get home 2 o'clock in the morning, get back up for work and go again. This was the work. Great recognition, great pats on the back for being the amp carrier. No, there's nobody. There's nobody. We just saw what needed to be done, and it was done. Hey, we need somebody to teach Sunday school. Can you do it? Yeah, I can do it. I got it. Hey, I need somebody to, okay, yeah, I can do that. I'll be there. Pastor calls, I need you at my house now. We're gone. We're there. This is the work. It's Johnny on the spot. It's whatever needs doing. Matt always tells me that he's called to a ministry of helps. Hey, you know what? Where you need me, I'm gonna be there.
That means when somebody has a ministry idea, guess what?
He helps.
I helps.
You call the helper.
I helps.
That's what he does.
I helps. This shake and bake.
But this is ministry. It's not a 9 to 5. It is a life. And there's so many more requirements. You're just going to get in there and give you a list of requirements if you're just going to be a helper. The person who wipes the table down. The coffee fixer. The breakfast cooker. Yeah, that's what deacon means, helper. It literally means the helper of the church. You know, doing the stuff that the pastor needs help, that needs to kind of delegate out a little bit, that might not be quite so spiritual. So there's requirements even for the grass cutter. There's requirements even for the, let's think about this. Do you want the work? Because the work goes on. It doesn't matter the workman. The workman's really irrelevant to the situation. It's the work. It's the whole body. It's being the gift to the body. That's what it's about. And I don't know why it just struck a chord really hard. If you're desirous of being a leader, that's a good thing. That's a good thing. It's not bad. It says you desire a good thing, but understand the work ahead of you. Understand it's going to cost everything. Understand that.
I'll never forget sitting there and, you know, everywhere we went, you know, it didn't matter. If somebody would get, everybody would hear some sort of scripture come out of your daddy's mouth.
Oh, yeah.
And we were on Sea Island, and this lady said, I want to serve Jesus like you serve Jesus. And for those of you who don't know what Sea Island is, it's the fancy place where all the
gated community.
That's the fancy gated community.
Woo!
Where all
They have guards.
all the Hollywood's people hide out, or the you know, millionaires go, Rockefellers and
there
stuff
you
like
go.
that.
See?
And this lady was over there, and she was hearing Pops talk about serving the Lord, and she said, "I want to do that like you do." And he said, "Would you move your family out of this house and into a cardboard box to serve the Lord?" And she said, "No."
Nope. You won't serve him like me.
And he said, "You won't serve him like I would." That's the difference, guys.
That's the difference.
Most people will serve God to a certain point, and then
They have their
stop.
comfort line. Their comfort line.
If it cost you everything you had, if it cost you the house, if it cost you
Yeah.
the land, if it cost you everything that you've been blessed with,
Would you still serve?
Would you still do it?
would you do it?
And it's easy to
Joyfully.
say yes.
Oh, yeah.
When you're going through it, it's not easy. Trust me.
I mean,
Because there are times where you're going, God, Are you sure?
Yeah.
I'm talking to God like, come on, God, are you sure this is what?
Yeah,
You
God,
sure this is
that's
what we're
not
supposed
what
to
I
do?
thought we were gonna be doing now, but here we are. I'm gonna, I wanna share this
Sorry.
one time, and I know we went over, I apologize, but I think when it hit home, now I grew up in ministry, because around about my teenage years was when my parents really started branching out into official ministry. Let's go with official. I grew up with parents who did ministry unrecognized, whatever, my whole life. I mean, they were always helping someone. They were always doing the work without the recognition, without the paper, without the prestige, without the whatever you want to call it. But around about the time I turned 16, a devil manifested in the church, and woohoo, things started happening, you know? First deliverance. That was fun. Watch the people part like the Red Sea and leave that building. You know, it was interesting, you know, and then you had the ones that were too scared to move, and they kind of like hid behind people. But anyway, that's, you know, got out there, Daddy cast out some devils, and from then on it was a slightly different path. Things started moving in a different direction. So my formative years, I grew up knowing nothing else but ministry. This is normal for me. Matt's like, what? You know, through most of the things we get involved in, and he's like, what? It's like, baby, this is just me. This is life. This is how it goes. No, this ain't everybody's life. But to me, this is normal. I don't know. I grew up in it. But anyway, I think when it really dawned on me that he might be onto something was when I went to the chiropractor. First time having trouble with my neck. And I went to the chiropractor, and, you know, on the form where it's like occupation, I've never had to fill out occupation because I've been blessed. I'm a homeschool mom, you know. No, oh wait, I'm supposed to put pastor here, you know, because I have an occupation, whatever. I put it down there, and the chiropractor just starts like interrogating me. Are you getting enough sleep? Are you okay? Are you stressed out? Are you doing this? Are you taking care of yourself? And I'm like, what? Because it's usually, where does it hurt? Here, I'm stuck like this. Can you help me? You know, I ain't doing that because I ain't on Reglan. But it went totally backwards on the 1%. But he starts interrogating me on like my mental health, my emotional health, and all these things. And he's like, because I see so many pastors. And they're just worked up in nothing but knots. And that's when it hit me, Lord. Because I can tell you about the times Daddy was in knots, physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, over the work. Do you desire the work? Because the work will go on. For one who is called, you need to understand what the work is and what it means. It means you don't count anymore. With that, we're going to end this little rabbit trail. Remember, I love you, God loves you, and there ain't anything you can do about it.
You have to stop.